Greeting, Cheating Story Lab. As her legal representative, Tessa's attorney slides the settlement agreement towards me with an air of certainty reminiscent of someone holding a prized poker hand. "Mr. Casolano," he says, "your wife is extending generosity beyond measure. She requests only 60% of Casolano Construction's assets. Given your documented absences and her significant involvement in the business, I recommend you sign before she reconsiders." I grab the pen. My attorney Gregory nudges me forcefully under the table with his foot. I sign regardless, noticing Tessa's expression, a blend of disbelief and anticipated victory that nearly provoked laughter, almost. However, after 6 months of honing my expression of defeated acceptance, I wasn't about to break it now, especially when we were mere seconds from the end game. "Finished," I state, returning the papers. "When should I vacate the office?" Tessa's lawyer, a smooth operator named Whitmore who likely spent more on his cufflinks than my monthly truck payment, actually flinches. "There will be no negotiation here. What is there to discuss? She desires the business, she obtains it." Rising from my seat, I fasten my coat. "I'll ensure all my personal belongings are moved out by Friday." Gregory accompanied me into the corridor, his complexion purplish. "Dominic, why on earth are you acting like this? We held power, the forensic accountant discovered." "I am aware of his findings," I replied calmly. "Have faith, Greg, just have faith in me. It's been 8 days since then." "Let me explain." Tessa and I crossed paths 15 years ago at a commercial real estate conference. At the time, I was 32, overseeing a 3-man contracting crew from a leased warehouse. She was 29, functioning as a project coordinator for a development company. Shrewd, ambitious, stunning without pretense. We tied the knot in a courthouse ceremony 17.5 years ago because we were both too pragmatic for a grand wedding, or so I thought. The initial decade was prosperous. Exceptional, even. I transformed Casolano Construction from a small team of 3 to a bona fide business with 47 employees and an annual revenue of $12 million, securing contracts with half the commercial developers in the Tri-County area. Tessa moved up from project coordinator to business development consultant, which primarily involved attending industry gatherings and managing our contact list effectively. She was skilled at it, friendly and well-liked by everyone. I learned last March that Kyle Brennan, a corporate attorney, endurance athlete, and married father of 2, had been having an affair with my wife for 14 months. I discovered this in the traditional way, suspicious credit card transactions. $340 at a downtown hotel on a Tuesday afternoon when she claimed to be at a vendor meeting. Another $280 at the same hotel 3 weeks later. Then $310, followed by $340 again. I serve as a contractor, and patterns are crucial to my work. I didn't directly challenge her, instead opting for a more strategic move. I reached out to an older client of mine, Frank Casolano, a retired police detective turned private investigator, no familial relation despite the name. "Frank, I require covert surveillance, proficient and well-documented, with evidence that stands up in court. How severe do you think this situation is?" Frank inquired. "Severe enough for me to reach out to you rather than confronting her directly." In 3 weeks, Frank delivered his report photographs, timestamp videos, hotel bookings under false names, credit card transactions at eateries unknown to me, and the shocking find email correspondence between Tessa and Kyle discussing not only their affair, but plans to restructure my business in a manner that would marginalize me. An email dated January 19th sent a chill through me. Once they file, Dom will be caught off guard. The chilling conclusion from our forensic expert could implicate his business trips as asset concealment. I assume a pivotal role as the company's operational core, which is not an overstatement, and strive for dominant control in the separation agreement. Following the official conclusion of our divorce in 6 months, we intend to sell the entire venture to Brennan Development Partners for $8.1 million. Dom will receive a meager portion of this sum, while we secure enough funds to rebuild anew. As a team. Brennan Development Partners was originally Kyle's family business, but they were not merely plotting to divorce me. They were scheming to misappropriate my lifelong endeavors and transfer them to the family business of my estranged wife's lover. Sitting in my truck in Frank's parking lot, reading that email on my phone, I felt an intense coldness within me. Instead of becoming enraged, I remained calculating, first phoning Gregory. "I require you to carry out something that might sound irrational, but I need you to trust me." Over the following 4 months, while Tessa believed she was clandestinely planning her divorce surprise, I was meticulously reorganizing everything. Step 1. Established a new limited liability company named Casolano Management Solutions. featuring clean documentation, distinct tax identification, and operating independently as a separate corporate entity. Transferred all our lucrative ongoing contracts to this newly established firm via legitimate subcontracting arrangements. On paper, Casolano Construction was contracting Casolano Management Solutions for project management services, which was technically accurate given my role in managing projects. The public record disclosed my ownership of CMS, a fact that Tessa apparently failed to notice. Step 2 involved identifying every debt, liability, and pending issue with Casolano Construction and leaving them untouched in their original places. The $2.1 million equipment loan with the high-interest rate planned for refinancing was left unchanged. The $890,000 in contractor liens from a project that had taken a turn for the worse 18 months prior, currently entangled in litigation, remained undisturbed. The EPA notice regarding inappropriate soil disposal from a 2019 project requiring approximately $400,000 in remediation prompted action. I acquired a new business loan, a legal maneuver leveraging company assets, to purchase equipment and vehicles. These assets were then transferred to CMS. Through a legitimate sale, Casolano Construction received cash, while CMS acquired assets, increasing Casolano Construction's debt by an additional $1.3 million. Subsequently, I meticulously documented each transaction, contract, and every business justification for every decision, creating a comprehensive paper trail to ensure compliance during audits as all actions were legal, albeit aggressive and relentless. By the time divorce papers were served by Tessa's lawyer in late March, Casolano Construction had transformed into a debt-ridden corporation with $4.2 million in debts, few physical assets, and no ongoing income. All significant commercial activities, contracts, clients, and profitable tasks were channeled through Casolano Construction Management System, CMS. Importantly, CMS wasn't considered marital property due to its creation following proof of infidelity, legally signifying the dissolution of our marriage. However, Casolano Construction maintained a presentable appearance on paper if one didn't delve deeper. It had established brand recognition, a name, an office, some equipment, and sufficient superficial value that Tessa's forensic accountant later found to be a friend of Kyle's, far from being impartial, could compile a report valuing it at $3.2 million in net worth. This report was fictitious, yet it was persuasively so. Consequently, when Tessa demanded Casolano Construction in the divorce, seeking the business rather than a monetary settlement, her lawyer believed she was being astute. She'd acquire the company, evade the cash flow issues from making me purchase her share, and she'd possess a well-established business to manage or sell. I allowed her to believe she'd triumphed. The settlement meeting was a theatrical display. Gregory executed his role flawlessly, contending with sufficient intensity to appear as if we were defending something precious, but eventually surrendering when Tessa's attorney hinted at prolonging the proceedings indefinitely. We consented to an allocation of 60% of business assets in her favor. She obtained Casolano Construction while I garnered CMS and some pension accounts on paper. She finalized everything by Thursday, and by Friday afternoon, I had emptied my desk at the Casolano Construction office. Tessa arrived with Kyle, a daring move indeed, and they perused the premises as if inspecting a newly acquired property. "You know, Dom," Tessa remarked, leaning against my former desk, "this doesn't need to be hostile. You created something commendable here. I'll maintain it." "I trust you will," I replied. Kyle appeared awkward. "This is merely transactional," he commented. "I understand the nature of this situation," I retorted. I exited, climbed into my vehicle, and navigated to the CMS office, a humble workplace in a business park 3 miles distant where my team had been laboring for 4 months. My foreman, Big Tommy, was on standby with a case of beer. "How did it fare, Chief?" I responded. "She took the bait. Give her about 2 weeks to realize it took 9 days. The initial hint was a call from Tessa's lawyer, which I ignored. He left a message requesting I return his call concerning inconsistencies in the business documents. The second clue was an email from Tessa herself with the subject line, "We need to discuss." I discarded it. The third signal was Kyle appearing at a construction site where my team was employed. I was examining blueprints inside the trailer when he knocked. "We need to talk," he said, foregoing formalities. "Did we engage in fraud? You moved all active contracts to a legitimate limited liability company, LLC, CMS, rather than a shell company. I transferred them through legal subcontracting agreements that were properly documented and filed. As a corporate attorney, Kyle, you should recognize the value of good documentation. This isn't fraud. It's asset restructuring after the dissolution of our marital partnership following my discovery of Tessa's affair, legally established by CMS. All contracts transferred to CMS were negotiated or renewed post-dissolution. If your forensic accountant friend had done his job correctly, he would have noticed this instead of just giving you the valuation you desired. You're questioning the transfer of Casolano Construction, a business with no current revenue. I've given her precisely what she requested: the name, brand, office, remaining equipment, everything. What she does with it is now her concern, not mine. Kyle blushed. You placed the company in a vast amount of debt. I burdened the corporation with legitimate business debt accrued for necessary operations. If she wishes to lead a construction firm, she must grasp debt management. Or else she could dissolve the company, but then she'd have to address the creditors. It promises to be complex. This isn't vindictive, it's pragmatic. To be vindictive would be if I exposed your 14-month affair with my wife. Vindictive would be if I leaked your emails about stealing my business to your family's company's board. Vindictive would be if I filed a civil lawsuit for conspiring to commit fraud based on your strategy to undervalue CMS while overvaluing Casolano Construction. I gazed at him. I'm not acting vindictively, Kyle, I'm being resourceful. He departed without another utterance. The legal calls from Tessa increased over the ensuing week, with threats of filed motions. Gregory was given a straightforward response by me. All transactions were legitimate, and all related documentation is accessible for scrutiny. If Mrs. Casolano finds reasons to allege fraud, she is free to do so. However, she did not file a claim because she couldn't, as everything I conducted was legal. My actions may have been aggressive and ruthless, but they were legal. The equipment loans had reached their due dates. Contractor Leon faced court proceedings. An EPA final notice with penalties was issued. As the new owner of Casolano Construction, Tessa held personal responsibility for all the debt. She sought my business, and now she has it, the entire business, along with the $4.2 million in debt. I learned through industry gossip that she attempted to sell the company name and remaining assets to pay off debts, but no one was willing to take them due to high liabilities. She also tried to declare corporate bankruptcy, but because she personally owned the company as part of the divorce settlement, she unintentionally took on personal responsibility for the debts. Tessa's attorney, a friend of Kyle's, made errors in the paperwork. Approximately 3 weeks after this incident, Kyle allegedly stopped responding to her calls. It was reported that his wife had received an anonymous delivery containing printouts of his emails with Tessa, accompanied by pictures from their hotel stays. 6 weeks later, the media announced the filing for divorce by Mrs. Brennan. Company Brennan Development Partners released a statement claiming Kyle was taking a leave of absence to handle personal affairs. Approximately 2 months post-divorce finalization, Tessa contacted me only once. I received her call at a construction site. I almost ignored it, but my curiosity prevailed. "You ruined me," she said, her voice emotionless and dejected. "No," I replied. "I gave you exactly what you asked for. You wanted my business, and you got it. You were aware of the debt." "Naturally, I knew about it. I'm not naive, Tessa. I created that company. I am aware of each incoming and outgoing dollar. I'm pursuing personal bankruptcy. I'm sorry to hear that. Isn't that surprising? I had considered the email, the one where she discussed my ignorance of an impending blow, the one where she planned to misappropriate 15 years of my work and sell it to her lover's family business." "No," I replied. "I'm not sorry in the least," she disconnected. I stood there on a construction site, phone in hand, feeling nothing. No vindication, no satisfaction. Just emptiness. Big Tommy approached. "You all right, boss?" "Yes," I said. "I'm fine." That was 4 months ago. Casolano Management Solutions is thriving. We're on target to reach $15 million in revenue this year. I have employed 12 new staff members. We secured 2 significant municipal contracts that Casolano Construction had been aiming for years to obtain. It appears that a clean financial history and absence of litigation are beneficial for government bids, as Tessa's bankruptcy was finalized last month. She resumed her role as a project coordinator, the same position she held 15 years prior. I learned she's renting a studio apartment in another part of town. Kyle's divorce was finalized. His wife was granted primary custody of their children and a substantial settlement. She is no longer with Brennan Development Partners. As far as I know, he was doing freelance work for a firm out of state at the time. I could have handled things differently. I could have spoken to Tessa when I first discovered the emails. I could have tried to save the marriage, sought counseling, worked through the betrayal. But upon reading that email, something within me decided. If she wanted to view our marriage as a business transaction, as a deal to be won or lost, then I would handle it the same way, with strategy, patience, and ruthless efficiency. She got her desired transaction, but she didn't realize the business she sought was already defunct. I am not proud of my actions, but neither am I ashamed. In every instance, transfers, contracts, restructurings, I adhered to the rules, all were legal, documented, and could stand up in court. I fulfilled her requests explicitly, but unintentionally caused her harm. This wasn't revenge, it was the natural consequences. Occasionally, during our meetings for drinks, Gregory reminds me of this, stating last week, "You know, I've been practicing family law for 23 years, and I've never seen anyone play a long game like that." To which I replied, "It wasn't a game." He agreed, saying, "Perhaps it wasn't." Currently, I am dating someone new, Adriana, who owns a bakery and has no ties to construction, business, or intricate financial matters. We dine together, discuss ordinary topics. She brings laughter into my life and once inquired about the absence of photos of my ex-wife. I explained, "It's complicated," as most divorces are, especially this one. Concerning Tessa and Kyle, I appreciated her restraint. Perhaps one day I'll reveal the entire saga. It involved emails, debts, 4 months spent meticulously tearing down my own venture to salvage it, or not. For in truth, it's all concluded. Tessa obtained her goal, Kyle received his due, and I retained what I crafted myself, even if it required setting the initial structure ablaze. Justice isn't always symbolized by a courtroom triumph or a heated showdown. Sometimes justice appears as a woman executing documents for a supposedly valuable business, unaware she's inherited a financial wasteland. Sometimes justice is subtle, precise, unyielding. I didn't ruin Tessa. I merely allowed her to take precisely what she grasped, and if what she grasped proved toxic, that's on her.